All right, so now I said this to Art last week is after Barry left, I became apathetic for the Lions. Like I checked in a couple times when Calvin Johnson here and there, but I never watched a complete game until this past year, and I kind of watched this game kind of to make fun of my friends who were still spending all these hundreds of dollars for this 1-6 team. And the first game I watched was the first game they won, so they went 2-6. And then I watched the whole game the next week, and then the next week. And by the 5th or 6th win in a row, I was watching your podcast, and like I told Art last week, not only was I drinking the Lion Kool-Aid, I was guzzling it. And a lot of that had to do with not only their play, but I enjoyed watching Locked on the Lions and your podcast. Talk about how your podcast has evolved, because it's been tough. Now it's fun, but it had to be brutal when you first started this. Talk about how it's evolved for you.
No, Ron, I appreciate the kind words. I think we've got a nice following. It's been a lot of fun to do. Like I said, full time I'm running marketing and business development for 2 companies here locally, Financial Architects out of Farmington Hills, and the Q5 Experience, which is business succession planning. So that takes up a lot of my time. But to know that at the end of my day, every day, I can, throw the backdrop up, get the mic ready, and do 25 to 30 minutes and talk about everybody's favorite team, whether you're Lions free, Ron, whether Art says he's Lions free, this is everybody's team. The NFL is king. Like I said, David called me in the spring of 2016 and said, I'm starting this network. You're a Pistons guy. You want to host a Lockdown Pistons? I said, I will, but who's doing the Lions? Because I'll take the Lions, because NFL is just king.
Yeah.
And you're right. The first few years of doing the show where it was just audio, now we're on video, we're on YouTube. It was hard. Because it's like, what can you say? It's the same crap every single week. And the post-game pods were, it's brutal. And it was hard, especially during the Matt Patricia era. And my listenership went down when Patricia was the coach. There were many that said, when he's gone, I'll be back. And now my YouTube, they just said in an internal memo with all the hosts that as far as all the YouTube shows, I'm number 2 behind the Steelers. Like the growth has been enormous, and I'm not doing anything differently. I don't think I'm this great host. I think I do a good show, and I think I know what I'm doing, but like we've grown, man, because this team's been good. And you're right. I'm energized now. These are tough times in June and July to muster up content, but not with this team. They are just exciting and they are good. And so it's evolved into a lot more positivity. That's for sure.
Well, I think the two
YouTube,
faces. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just amazing who's watching. I've had people on the inside tell me they're watching, meaning down in Allen Park, as I like to call it, 222 Rodwood Drive. So it's growing. It's fun, and the network's doing well. So it's really a nice way for me to stay in it. No longer work full time. I do some fill-in work at the Fan in Cleveland. So I've got equipment here in my basement that I can do some shows at 92.3, and that station's a powerhouse. Andy Roth is as good as PD I've ever worked for. So I can do some radio, but this podcast is cool to keep my whistle wet in the business.
For the few people who haven't watched the podcast, what should people expect if they tune in?
With Locked on Lions, I tell it like it is. I think I'm fair. I'm trying to be entertaining. We have good guests. During the season, there were weeks where the Lions were playing, the Jets, and it was CBS's big, they had their number 2 team do the game. So Ian Eagle was doing the game. We had Ian on. Lions play the Packers, goes to NBC. We get Tirico on. The guys from Pro Football Focus have been great. So the PFF guests have been really good. Jim Nagy from ESPN and the Senior Bowl comes on all the time. So we try to mix in good guests with opinion, news of the day. I try to interact with the followers and the commenters on YouTube, give some shout outs, and just try to have some fun and come up with some angles that maybe other people aren't coming up with. Right now it's been real positive. So
how shocked were you at that Carolina loss? I was stunned, even if it was in Carolina, because that was the game that I think kept them out of the playoffs.
It did. It's funny. I had a couple of people text me from the team that said, you are being very unfair this week. And I said, why? They got their clocks cleaned. And they're like, the field conditions were so bad. it was like playing on cement. You're saying on your show they got punched in the mouth. They weren't the tougher team, which they weren't.
Carolina had to play on the same field.
Right. That's what I was saying. But they were like, that was devastating. But like in the grand scheme of things, go back to the Minnesota loss in September and go, if Campbell wouldn't have had Seibert kicking, an injured Austin Seibert trying a 48-yard field, there were other instances during the season, let's be honest. But now I expect them to win the division, Ron. I really do. Too. I think they've got to win it. They got to host a playoff game, and then we'll go from there. There's a lot of momentum here. The division's weak. I mean, all of this is lining up, Ron. I just know that some diehards are probably like still keeping their fingers crossed. They got to keep Jared Goff healthy, because if he gets hurt, that's big trouble. But other than that, it's exciting.
How did you feel about the draft? It was very enigmatic.
At first, I didn't like it because I thought running back at 12 and middle linebacker at 18, like, what is this, 1982? Like, what are we doing? But as you look at the grand scheme of it and the big picture, I think Brad Holmes did a really good job. And he's drafted well for 3 years. I mean, Penei Sewell's a stud. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an unbelievable pickup. James Houston, Aiden Hutchinson. And people could say, well, you know, anybody could have taken Aiden Hutchinson at 2. Well, no, they could have taken Thibodeau. They could have pushed for others. I think Brad Holmes has a good pulse on the draft. The kicker situation, not sure about that. Quarterback, we'll have to see. But all in all, I think he's done a really good job.
What about this quarterback from Tennessee? What should people expect from this kid? He's not a kid. He's kind of an older guy.
Yeah, he is, but I don't think he's going to play this year. I don't think you're going to see Hendon Hooker at all. It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't even play in the preseason. Like, this is mothballs and getting him holding a clipboard for a full season. I truly do not expect to see him at all.
And I agree with you, but I do want to ask you about Goff, because if you watched the season as it progressed last year, like I did, and I didn't see the first 7 games. I said I tuned in on when they went 2-6. But there's been some kind of, I don't know, negative comments made here and there about Goff. Not that there's a lot, but where does that come from? Then the little bit it does.
You got to remember, he had to take over for Matthew Stafford, who was mostly beloved in this market and people really liked. And Stafford was kind of the golden boy and put up gaudy numbers and had a better arm. Goff's first year was not very good. You know, his former coach is bashing him, Sean McVay. But last year, like you said, once he got into a nice rhythm and routine with Ben Johnson, he was really, really good. So he's not spectacular. He can't evade the rush. He's not a runner. He's not, you know, Justin Fields. And you watch my show. I call him the Hall of Fields. Everybody's like, oh, he's so great. Oh, and you know, Carlos Monarez from the Free Press is writing idiotic columns like, the Lions need their Justin Fields. Oh, really? Justin Fields won 3 freaking games last year. Jared Goff won 9. Be careful what you wish for. So I think there's always going to be that stigma on Goff because he's not the sexy, run around, make amazing plays quarterback. But all he did was win last year. Let's give him this year and see, with even more weapons, with Laporta and Gibbs and Jamison Williams for week 7 and hopefully beyond. Maybe this offense can get better. That'd be pretty scary.
Locked On Lions, people, how often are you going to do shows when the season starts? Every day or?
Oh, yeah, no. We're on every day, Monday through Thursday now. During the season, it's Monday through Friday. And then once the season starts, I usually go Sunday through Thursday, although now they're trying to coax me into doing more. So, but, you know, even off season, I'm still doing Monday through Thursday. So you and I are recording on what, a Wednesday this is? Yeah. So beyond today, beyond tomorrow. And just like bringing people content. There's always something going on with the team. There's always some sort of list we could talk about or, and, you know, we'll get into usually my summer shows. We talk about the Pro Bowl and who could be first-time Pro Bowlers. There's a lot of different angles that we take, and it's fun. I really have enjoyed doing it since 2016.